Western Whisper. This is whisper number 11. I think I'm going to talk about a few of my favorite things today. And I think I'm going to start with authors. Most of the authors I like are thriller writers. They include Ray Bradbury. Two of his works in particular I like. The one is probably his most famous, Something Wicked This Way Comes. And the second one is The Halloween Tree. Both very much intriguing stories of the supernatural. I have been a follower of Dean Koontz from the time I was a teenager until about 5 years ago or so. I've kind of lost my interest in him here more recently. Not that he's not still a good writer, but I just stopped picking up his books. I think the last one I read was From the Corner of His Eye, which actually might have been more than 5 years ago. Might have been closer to 10. But nonetheless, Koontz is very good. The only thing I would say about Koontz is that sometimes he does have a tendency to go on. I read once that he was not necessarily abused, but his father was pretty rough with him, verbally I believe, and he had an unhappy childhood. So all of his stories have a happy ending, or just about all of them do. And sometimes he feels it necessary to talk about that, perhaps 50 pages after the story really ended. I like to write stories as well, usually short stories, so yeah, you gotta kind of get to the point, but sometimes it's best just to leave something at the end for the reader's imagination, but Dean Koontz likes to make sure you understand that happy ending, and for the most part that's cool. He's in direct contrast with Stephen King, which I would say more than half of his stories have bad endings. And I would say that I do like some Stephen King. I like a lot, mainly like his short stories more than his novels. Although I have read a lot of them. I just really didn't care for books like Christine and Cujo. Firestarter actually was pretty good. But more recent I read Desperation, and it just, I don't know. I have never seen the movie, but excuse me. Something about Desperation. I did read it, but it was kind of boring, really. But I do like some of King's older short stories that aren't as popular, like Quitters Inc., for example. And the original Lawnmower Man, which has nothing to do with the movie that was made. Totally different story. And I know most of his works, novels and short stories, have become movies. But as far as I know, the short story, The Word Processor of the Gods, never was made into a movie. And it was interesting. Another author I like is Michael Crichton. Yes, he's died now, but I did like Jurassic Park. I read that as a teenager before the movie came out. And the movie is actually pretty close to the book. You don't always see that. But one book of his that was very hard to follow, but I muddled through, was Timeline. I've never watched the movie, but he does definitely go into a lot of detail about time travel. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I read by him. Oh yes, Sphere. Sphere was actually very good. The movie, to me, was a little off from the book. It wasn't as good, even though they had some names in there that helped the movie. I thought the book was much better. Without giving the whole story away, the only part that I didn't really think that really added much to the story was the fact that the spaceship they find underwater was from the future. I don't really see what relevance that had, but nonetheless, it was actually a pretty interesting novel. I've had people give me Mary Higgins Clark books, and they're alright, but I never really got into her as a thriller writer. One author that I really do like, and his stories are so vividly realistic to me, is H.P. Lovecraft. He had some sort of gift, without actually having major things happen in the story. Sometimes he just makes you feel like you're there. I want to say the story is called Necromancer, but it might not be called that, but the story where they're bringing people back to life for short periods of time, it just scared me. I only read that like 2 years ago. It was actually pretty scary stuff to be reading right before you go to bed. And his invention of the god Cthulhu, amazing. He wrote 100 years ago, and Google Earth actually has the location on their globe of where Cthulhu's underwater imprisonment or lair or whatever it was located. And if you look at the globe, it's an excellent spot, that the coordinates, because you cannot hardly even see land. If you looked at it as not being a globe, or even looking at it as a globe, you could just barely see the outline of land. So it's like it was very intentional that that spot was chosen for the story. But the idea that Cthulhu and his lair, or his, it's been a while since I've read this story, so I'm not remembering all the details, but the idea behind it is that he was so far out of whack from humanity that we couldn't see and comprehend his place in him correctly. Almost like the idea behind The Last of the Whimsies, or I might not be saying that right either. Mimsies, that's what it is. That was an old story, and I also read that long ago, and their whole idea behind that was that the toys that they found from the future, okay, granted I haven't seen the movie that came out a few years back, but from the story, they sent these toys from the future back in time, experimenting with time travel, and these two kids find them back in like the 40s, and they're messing with them, and their parents don't really pay attention, and these toys are actually a type of tool that teaches kids to see outside the Euclidean realm. It's actually changing their thoughts and the way they process things and see things. And I think that was something along the lines of what H.P. Lovecraft was trying to get with Cthulhu and his lair. I actually thought I'd get a little bit further than just talking about these authors of mine, but I think I will end this since it is over 10 minutes already. Don't want to bore you too much. But until next time, thanks for listening. Goodbye.